Hello and welcome to the Comedian's Paradise. This is where we talk to the most awesome, the mavericks, the Arnold Schwarzeneggers of the comedy world. And today's guest is the biggest muscle man in comedy. He's the most dangerous man I've ever met. He's a killer joke writer and you're going to absolutely love him. Please welcome the dangerous, the massive, the brilliant, the ginormous, the magnificent Don Biswas.
Hi Marvin, how's it going?
It's good, how are you?
I love that introduction, by the way. That took so long. I think the podcast is finished now.
That's true.
But yeah, thanks for the killer joke writer. That's much appreciated.
Thank you, man. Did I sound like David Attenborough or something? What did you think?
Yeah, comics in the wild. You can just narrate a new documentary, yeah.
And what's your name? You got Michael. What's your name again, my friend? Javel. Cool. What did you think of the podcast introduction?
I felt that it was good. It was good. It wasn't bad. It wasn't amazing, but it was good.
It was good.
5 out of 10. That's it. 5 out of 10.
Now, it's a pleasure to have you, Don.
Thank you.
For people that don't know about you in the comedy world and people that are listening in, tell us, have you seen the film Terminator 2?
I've seen it a very long time ago.
But there's this little scene where Sarah Connor goes up to the Arnold Schwarzenegger and goes, "What's your story?" So I'm going to say this to you. What is your story, Don, in short summary on how you became a comedian?
For those who don't know me, my name's Don Biswas. I've been doing comedy for a long, long time. 17 years, but I've only been taking it seriously since last week. But yeah, I started randomly. I went to an open mic night with my sister in the Bedford pub in Balham. Her boss was doing an open mic night as a bet, so I thought I could do that, and I've been going ever since. And for those who know me, it's been a very slow journey, but it's been very, over the last few years, it's been quite fruitful. I talk about being neurodivergent, autistic, dyspraxic, ADHD, talk about having an overbearing Indian mother, and also talk about politics. And if I didn't have an overbearing Indian mother, I wouldn't have a career, because that's where a lot of my jokes are.
That's what you need in life.
Yeah.
Does she get a stick out or does she get a boxing glove out?
A boxing glove, so.
Okay. So what's the punishment if a joke doesn't work?
Well, well, it used to be if a joke didn't work, the punishment, and I'm being a bit literal here, is that if it didn't work and if I didn't make any money from comedy at all, then obviously my mum would tell me to get another job, just get a proper job. But my mum's quite relaxed about it now, so.
She's seeing you on TV like, that's my son.
Yeah, she's been pleased with that, but also being neurodivergent, having the autism, and also I have depression as well. The main thing now, the main goal is as long as I'm happy, and obviously I'm making a bit of money out of it. So that's the main thing. So it's changed over the years a lot.
Yeah, but things have, the last few years have been quite big for you, haven't they? Like the last few years, things have really sort of sped up.
Yeah, during the back end of lockdown, I managed to get an agent, and he's done absolute wonders for me. I signed to a Rush of Laughter, and yeah, they just before that I wasn't getting any gigs. I was only in one club, but now I'm in several clubs, been on a bit of radio, did an Edinburgh show. Yeah, so I can't complain.
The thing is, like, having an agent, basically, like when you go up to clubs or different things by yourself, like you get to say you're good, but when you have an agent, you got someone here. It's like a little backing in. It's like, listen here, son. I bet Adam's like that. He was in the military, doesn't he? I bet he has a words with a few of them. He says, listen, if you don't put Don on the bill, I'm going to sort you out.
Well, it's a bit like that. I think the best way to describe it, it's like being in a trade union. There's several comics there. Obviously, you've got your agent, and we all work together. So we back each other up. Obviously, my agent backs me up to gigs. So in a case, if one comic can't do the gig and I'm available, then I can do that gig, and vice versa. So we all help each other out. So you're stronger together in a circuit that doesn't really have a union. That's my own personal experience.
But no, I mean it's a great agency from what I hear of it, and the thing, I think we've spoken about this a few times before, in it, like you can go into Avalon, you can go into Off the Curb and all these other big agencies, and you can get lost. It is good, but the great thing with Rush of Laughter, it's a very small, passionate, tight team, as you said, where you both back each other up, and it's
great for that. I mean, you could get lost in a really big agency, and Adam Rushton, my agent, and everyone there has done wonders for you. I can't ask for more. And we've got about 15 clients, but it's not like, if you look at Off the Curb, they've got about 60, so you're not lost. So there is going to be more of that one-on-one time. Obviously, you have to put in the work yourself, get the jokes out, write your shows and so forth. But yeah, it's been a huge help.
Does it help with also with a bit of motivation? Because I found myself, if I'm working with someone on something, or if there's this lovely little app that, for anyone that's listening, it's completely outside of comedy related, but there's this thing called Focus Mate, where if you book it online and you have someone to work with, it gets you to do more work than if you're on your own. And does that sort of thing is that the same sort of effect that you have with having an agent? Because if you're just on your own, it's work yourself, but now that you've got someone else depending on you as well, does that also motivate you as well?
I suppose it does. Yeah, it does. I think more than anything, it's given me confidence in terms of motivate. There's someone who actually believes in me, and so in some ways, it motivates me, but it's less stress now in a way because there's someone backing me, and we've got some great acts in our agency. So if they can trust those acts, then it's really nice that they can trust me as well to be a part of the agency and for me to do comedy with them.
Yeah. You got some good. I mean, you got Matt Price, who's a good friend of ours.
He's brilliant, absolutely. For those who don't know Matt Price, he's one of the best comics. Great storyteller.
Yeah.
Gag writer, MC. He can do everything. So check him out, Matt Price.
And Ignacio Lopez as well.
Yeah, like he's been what Adam's done for his career, and Ignacio himself, an agency, but he's been on Live with Apollo. Have I got news for you? So yeah, it's been absolutely brilliant. So and hopefully he can few more of us could get on TV and radio as well.
Yeah, no, it's big things there. No, I want to say about it. We talk about a lot of things going on. Like Adam, from what I know of him, he works very hard. He gets a lot of things, but he's also a no nonsense thing, and there is a bit of integrity there. Because I know one of the things, and I've spoken to. Do you know Kev Mudd? He also says hi, by the way.
Oh, nice. Yeah, Kev's nice.
Previous podcasts, he says one of the big things in comedy, and we've mentioned it before, it's unregulated, so there's a lot of nonsense going on. I've heard from you and other acts that, like, with payments in comedy clubs, like, they take 2 months to get through. Well, so if your job even as a barista or barman, they at least pay you at the end of the month. But with comedy, with it being unregulated, I've you've heard some ridiculous stories. Well, some they don't bother paying at all unless you go to a small claims court. But I've heard also some stories about some taking 2 years to pay.
I did something, where it was 6 months. I'm still owed money from jonglers back in the day.
Let's hear.
So 400 quid. Yeah, it's very unregulated, but with an agent, they'll help you chase it up. So it can be frustrating because you've got bills to pay and stuff like that. I wouldn't be in too much debt if I'm not in debt, but sometimes I use my overdraft. I wouldn't be in my overdraft if they paid on time. If the promoters actually paid like a week after at least, but sometimes you're waiting 6 weeks. But luckily I've got savings and stuff, so it's not too bad.
Yeah.
But if you're just relying on the comedy income, then, and you've got kids to look after, you've got a family, then it's tough.
But with comedy, I've spoken to a few comedians out there. There's a great comic like Martin Davis and all that, but they say that comedy in the 90s, and I heard from the Comedy Institution, for anyone that's listening, PJ, he says that the pay's gone down since he started, and he said that, what was the point I'm getting at? Yeah, so you've been in comedy for 17 years.
Yeah.
How has comedy changed for you?
Well, I was gigging with a guy called Windsor. He's a great MC. He's an actor as well. But he was talking about, we just gigged in the weekend, and he was gigging in Eastbourne in London, and he was going to make £665 per the weekend, which is not bad at all. It's really good. But 20 years ago, he was working for jonglers, and he was about £700. So the fee for 20 years, you'd expect the fees to be increased, but so it's changed now. Is that live comedy? You just can't depend on live comedy itself. You need to use social media. Like this, do your podcasts. There's multiple avenues now. So it's not just live comedy where you can make your money. But it is getting harder out there because there's more comics, and arguably there's there's more gigs, but they're less well paid. And in the 90s, obviously you didn't have the internet. So more people are going to see live comedy. I assume. Or I don't know what the exact figures are, but you had no competition from the internet.
No. But is with the, I mean, everyone's trying to a lot of comedians are now seeing social media as a way to break through and things, but is there a chance that boom will end as well? And there'll be something else that people have to find to get ahead?
At the moment, it doesn't seem like it's going to end, and it's a good thing because it's more of a democracy. But it's hard in the world because doing stand-up comedy and doing social media for me are two different things. Unless you put your stand-up comedy clips up, but it's a different skill set, and it's something I'm still working on. So, and I don't think it will end. I think you can bypass the whole circuit to a certain extent, the traditional way, if you're good at social media. I've seen people who from TikTok are like going on tour without ever being on the circuit, and I think that's a bit dangerous in a way because you need a little bit of experience, but you can bypass parts of the circuit.
Yeah, but yeah, well, it's a dangerous. Yeah, I've spoken this before, but if it's a bit of a dangerous thing for the circuit if people who aren't got the chops for it yet get the rewards without being ready. But a lot of people in comedy, no, not a lot of people, but there are a certain number in all of these, like in acting, comedy, or music, or that they want the rewards of it, but they don't actually like the art form.
Yeah, they want the rewards and they want to put their effort in. A good example is Jack Skipper and Ali Woods. They've got great content on social media, hundreds of thousands, but they put the work on in the circuit. They're brilliant comics as well. But I've seen a few TikTok artists who are going on tour now. I've never seen them on the circuit, which is not to be rude, but I just think I think even celebrities are going on tour and stuff like that, and maybe they've got writers to help them. But I think you need some chops on the circuit as well.
But
I mean, there's Fiona Allen, who's brilliant. She's been on the circuit. She's been on Smack the Pony and stuff like that, and she's a brilliant comic as well because she's learned on the circuit. And I think more. I don't think it. You can bypass the circuit, but I don't think your product is going to be good when you go on tour.
But bloody hell, if you do have a following, doing a stand-up tour is a great way to make money.
It's brilliant. That's my dream, is to go on tour one day, and that's why I'm trying to just be consistent and build my following. So yeah.
But there's all sorts of. I mean, you told me as well that Alistair Barry does it without. Well, he has a fair. You told me that he does. It without
Yeah,
putting
Alistair
work.
Barry's great. I supported him tour, and he has a social media following, not as big as maybe other comics, but he's just down there, and it's brilliant. And the good thing about doing that, but Alistair Barry's one of the best comics on the circuit, and he's got the chops. He's been going 20 odd years. He's a brilliant, very political comic. And the great thing about it is that he just went out there and did it, and doing those touring gigs with him, he probably even if you're doing a smaller tour, you probably still make more money than doing a club gig. So you're sort of your own boss, so you have that autonomy.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of that. Do you know? Yeah, a lot of that, and I hear a lot of people reporting more and more that they're not going to do the Fringe. And like, do you hear this as well? What have you heard about the Fringe? Because I've heard from others. I saw Nig Lavelle put a picture on Facebook showing the Royal Mile being empty, and saying that this Fringe this year has been the quietest it's ever been.
I think there's been an increase in the amount of shows compared to last year, but I've spoken to a lot of comics who are saying they're not doing it, and yeah, it's a hard one because I did it last year. I did the PR and everything, and I'm glad I did it. But sometimes you can just invest that money in social media, so you have to think about it. You have to have a show that's ready in the first place. There's no point just going up with nothing because it's a huge investment.
Would you go up there next year, or would you go up in a couple of years, do you think?
I'd like to go up in a couple of years. It depends. I just need to save the money up for it, or maybe use that money for social media. I'm undecided, but
Would you do the paid Fringe or the free Fringe?
either. I did the paid Fringe, so I don't mind doing the paid Fringe again, but it's just a question of making more money on the circuit. If I can get a well-paid corporate, get a bit of radio and stuff. But yeah, if I've got a product to sell, yeah, I'd definitely go up again. But my main aim is just to increase my following in social media.
And you're doing quite well of it. I've seen that you got it's slowly, steadily.
It's very slow, yeah. I've got a couple of thousand on Insta. That's nothing. I was speakers agent last year. That's nothing in the big scandal, the big scheme of things. But just the trick is just to be consistent, and I just need to improve the quality of my videos, editing and stuff like that. Yeah, but just keep going. I've contradicted myself there. 2,000 is okay for an average person, but as a comedian, if you want to sell tickets for shows, I need to do a lot better.
you've so what do I want to get at? Has the so with the 17 years in comedy, has the way comedy clubs have run changed as well, and the audience has changed?
I think it's. There was a post with Juliet Myers. She's a great comic. Check her out. She said Five Guys a few years ago with the restaurant and saying that's a comedy store lineup. I think the lineups have gone a lot more diverse. So in London at least. So I think that's changed. I think it's become more democratic. Well, that's because I've got an agent to help me now. But I think it's evened things out from my personal experience after the pandemic. So it's sort of rebalanced. So you got more acts coming through. So that's from what I've noticed. But yeah, but sometimes you get people coming through who are probably not ready. But yeah,
Yeah.
but if they tick a certain box, maybe. But
No. Good on them for getting what they have anyway.
yeah, exactly. So yeah, I mean, I tick more boxes than anyone.
That's true. What do I want to talk about? Is there any being dyspraxic and what have been so growing up? What do you think from your life experiences shaped you as a comedian?
I just think it's given me something a bit of an edge. Not now, but I go to Edinburgh. When I first started, no one was talking about dyspraxia, and no one was talking about autism. I did a gig for Google, and I got flown out to Silicon Valley. And this is not me bragging. The only reason why I did that gig is because Google employees are probably autistic and Indian, and I'm the only autistic Indian on the circuit. Man, I'm in the field of my own. So if there was any competition, I probably wouldn't get that gig. So, but now the whole circuit's changed. I'm an autistic, dyspraxic, Indian, ADHD, left-wing, political, Hindu, whatever, as many boxes, left-handed. Yeah, I used to be in the field on my own. Now I go to the Edinburgh Fringe Festival. There's 50 of us. I'm not even cracking the top 25, brother. So it's just like, yeah. So it's just like, yeah. So it is become a lot more diversified. So you have to. It's not just enough ticking boxes, obviously, but that's helped me in the start because it's given me stories to tell. So.
You say comedy has turned into like Sainsbury's, and you have all these like different avenues in the shop. You got your toothbrush section, you got your health and beauty section, you got your Indian section, you got your Thai section. Is that what you're saying comedy is now?
Yeah, to a certain extent, I think it's great because you're hearing different voices. You just don't want to see the same story all the time, and you get to hear about different experiences in life. So I think it's become a richer circuit for that. But yeah, it's also come obviously more competitive, but that's a good thing. It makes you a better comedian.
Can you do any impressions of the comedy you hate? I'm joking.
No.
I'm joking. No. It's becoming a bit like a job interview, isn't it? Like, listen here, this is my product. Will you hire me, guys?
Yeah, that's the thing. It's almost... It's a weird one because in some ways they're looking for more authenticity now. When I first started, it was your Jack Whitehall's, no disrespect to him, and the skinny jean guys and stuff like that. But now it's opened up a lot more, and they want a bit more authenticity from different backgrounds. So, and that's why I managed to get onto radio. So I think that helps as well. But in the same time, I was speaking to, I think he won BBC New Comedian of the Year, and he's autistic as well. And I wanted him to have an autistic character in the sitcom he was doing. It's a second-hand story, but he didn't want that. So, in the same time, it's about box ticking, but maybe you just don't want to tick that. Do you want to, for instance, I talk a lot about politics. That's my big passion. So I don't want to be talking about, if I just talked about being autistic, dyspraxic, and Asian, I'm like a walking advert for Channel 4.
You're going to put it on the shirt as well.
Well, I say that, but being dyspraxic means I've got no organisation and I turn up late for things. So I'm a walking advert for Channel 4+1. But but authenticity. But you don't necessarily have to talk about those issues. I think that's what they want. Sometimes they see you tick as many boxes as you can. Maybe they see pound signs. But I also want to talk about politics because that's my passion.
And you said that the circuit was white guys with skinny jeans. You're wearing jeans.
Yeah. These are not skinny, actually. I've got fat, so fat jeans.
That's good.
But yeah, that's what it used to be like that. But now it's, I think you got different perspectives, which is better now. It's not just one. But there's still a lot to do. There's a lot of ageism in the circuit as well, I think, and stuff like that. So there's a long way to go.
It's yeah, that's true. No, no, and it is still mostly it is mostly white middle class males still to a degree.
Yeah,
It's changing a little bit, but it is still that. That is mostly what the scene is still.
yeah. I mean, if you take a look at some people, someone who is Crescentia Wetton, who's a comedian, check her out. Great. She was saying to me, even if you take a look at the Black and Asian comics, they come from quite well-off backgrounds as well.
Yeah, they do.
Some of them Oxford educated, nothing like that. So there needs to still be that more diversity. I think class is a huge thing in this country, obviously. So maybe we need more working class comics to get through. But also,
we do.
I think the important thing is social media as well. If you don't have social media, you have if you want to become a touring comic, social media is important.
Yeah. Well, what you said there about them being diversity, yeah, they're diverse in skin color, but if you put them on a phone, you'd think they're white and middle class.
Yeah, I mean, Stuart Lee's comedy alternative vehicle, which was in about 13 years ago, there's a comedian called Brendan Burns who won the awards, and he called Stuart Lee's comedy alternative comedy vehicle. They had about 10 white acts and a couple of brown acts, Asian acts, and he called the show, Brendan Burns, Where's All the Black People? Because that's
Whoa.
it. Because if you look at the Asian comics on it, they're brilliant comics, but they're the most whitest Asian comics. And I'm quite of a sort of that ilk, you know. I'm not very. I don't know. I'm not very. Don't know much about my culture, being Bengali and stuff. But yeah. So sometimes when they get the diversity, it's not really diverse.
Yeah.
It's token diversity, maybe. I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm just saying, but some of the Asian comics you see are the whitest Asian comics, and some of the black comics you see are the whitest black comics.
Well, not to be political, but like, can you really? I mean, Richie Sunak, he is from an Asian background and all of that, but he is effectively from the same sort of thing as David Cameron, incredibly rich, very successful.
Exactly.
He's not how. One thing I find funny when I see videos of him and David Cameron talking about trying to say they understand the regular folk. They don't understand the regular folk. They've never struggled. They've never had. They've never had their
100%,
mum
mate.
work. What's it called like my mum does in Morrison's for bloody 10 hours a day, getting shouted at.
Yeah, that's maybe why you need a bit more transparency in comedy, just to find out where people come from. And I'm being a total hypocrite because I come from a middle class family. So if I struggle, man, I can get my mum to help me. If worse comes to worse, if I get desperate, and so yeah, I've got that safety net that most other people don't have. So we need to champion
do
more
too.
working class comics.
No, but the flip side of it, right, is I think the story of people who have struggled and worked to get to where they are is 100 times more interesting than someone that's just had it handed to them.
It's more rewarding as well because I've been going 17 years, and I've struggled with various things in comedy, with depression and stuff like that, and it's been a more rewarding experience. It's more tiring, but yeah, just to see someone's journey, yeah, it is more interesting than just to see the usual handed onto a plate stuff. But I think that's less and less now. So
Yeah, there's nothing against it. Good for you. But
yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
it's like
If you're talented, I mean, Jack Whitehall was a talented comedian, so
Yeah.
not to, so there are talented comedians, but yeah.
it's boring. It's a bit like no one watched a film where it's just straight ups. It's boring. You want to see things like they've. Isn't there a thing with Joseph Campbell or something like the hero's journey or something? But yeah, we want to. It's more interesting when we watch films or biographies where we see the hero. You know, they have a goal and they chase after it. But when there's lots of ups and downs and there's struggles, there's something to say. We want to know, you know, we find it interesting to see how they've got to where they are. They've got stories to tell. They've got.
Yeah, I think that's what you want to hear, 100%. And I think the product that I think it was Jimmy Carr was talking about. You need enough struggle in your life that you'll make a interesting product that you become successful, and you want the hunger and desire to become a stand-up comedian, and it spurs you on to make a really good product, to become a really good stand-up comedian. Sometimes if you have too much struggle, then it can really, like mental health problems, trauma in your life, then it could go the other way where you're just surviving. So, or you can go into deep depression or suicide. But if you have enough struggle in life, it's good. If you just get handed to you on your plate, sometimes maybe you don't appreciate it as much, and you take it for granted, and the product you produce, in this case, stand-up comedian, might not be a bit subpar
Yeah.
because you haven't had to fight for it.
Well, what's the thing I want to get to? Yeah. Well, this is one of the things that I've had recently, right? Yeah, I sometimes struggle a bit mentally with different things, and a few things get me down here and there. But the only thing that I found, you got these meditation videos. They say speak to a psychologist, which I haven't really done yet, but I may do it at some point. But I found that the only way to handle my crap is to be busy, or
Yeah,
to get
that's
a lot of
good.
things done. Because even if you feel like shit, if you do enough things, you forget about it for a bit. And if you keep going
100%, you
on,
get
it's at the
better.
back of your mind rather than like at the forefront.
Yeah, you get a lot better. I mean, one time I got really, really depressed, and all my thoughts started to stir was in 2011 when I went part time in my job because I had all this time suddenly. I didn't know what to do with it, and that was a problem in 2020. I think it's 2022 when I was going to go full time. So sometimes, in some ways, it's better to have a part time job just so uh, because then you can then it just keeps your mind busy doing a mindless task,
Yeah.
and you're not as focused on comedy so much, and you're not stewed with all your thoughts in your head as well. So sometimes that's good. If you just do comedy all the time, I don't think, and comedy is your whole life, then it can become quite unhealthy.
But you're a full time comic. No, I'm joking.
Exactly, it's true. But I try and do other things as well on the side, you know, to try and have a decent social life. I'm not adverse to getting another part-time job. So yeah, but yeah, I've seen what I've seen is new comics. They worry so much, and I had the same worries when I was younger, from getting from 10 minutes to the standard club 20 minutes set, and they're worried that this promoter won't book them, and that won't promoter will will book them. But why isn't that promoter booking them and so forth? But that one is, and I just tell them just relax. It's a recent friend of mine who just started out, and it says, just relax. You're going to cause yourself health problems. And this guy's working full time.
Mm.
It's easier said than done to tell them to relax, but it will work out in the end, you know. And if you work hard, do the social medias, work on your set, and you enjoy what you're doing, that's the most important thing. And if you get anything out of it, that's a bonus. The
Okay.
best piece of advice I got was from Ivor Dambina. Just enjoy it.
Mm. No.
Whatever level you are, just enjoy the comedy. It's a privilege to do stand-up comedy. Just enjoy it. If you've got an audience there in front of you, whatever level you are, and you can make them laugh, that's great. Anything else is a bonus, whether you get paid or whether you get other opportunities.
Okay. Now, following on from that as well, one thing I want to ask you, what's your thoughts on? I know some people say that it's wrong to have this thought, but I've suffered a bit from it from not looking at it. But do you feel that you got to be careful about what you let in? Because I feel that one of the things that I've thought about recently is that a lot of the people that I allow into my life are people that bring in something in one shape or form. Now, this may sound narcissistic or dodgy or whatever, but it's not always in terms of what they can bring in money or status or whatever. Whether they bring in good company, and I can have an open conversation with them, and I can trust them, they can trust me.
Yeah, that's a huge thing
That's
for you.
that's what I'm. That's what I've become a little bit more careful of, because if I don't mind, I like to help people out and all that. But if it's always going to be a situation where someone's always taking and not giving anything back,
That can be problematic as well. But the way I see it is, uh, I tend to give a lot of what I do is like, if anyone needs any help, I just give them a gig list and stuff like that, and how they can contact promoters and hopefully get more gigs. But I don't expect anything on the back. If they do, it's a bonus. For me, this whole game of comedy, yeah, obviously it's nice if you get something back. So from this, like, if you do me a favor, I do you a favor in comedy. But it doesn't matter at the end of the day. Just enjoy it. And that sounds silly. If you get anything back, if you help the comic beforehand and they help you back, that's a bonus. Anything in this game is a bonus, you know? Don't expect too much from other people. Just do the best you can with your skill set and the resources that you have. And if you get anything out of it financially, it's a bonus.
yeah,
So, yeah, don't worry. And also learn to take time out of comedy as well.
okay, cool. And following on from this, like chat and all that, do you have any sort of questions you would like to ask me as a comedy podcast producer? comedy podcast interview, I should say.
No, I just think this is a really good studio to work in. In terms of, I've listened to your clips on TikTok and they're great, and I think you've got a huge potential with this. If you edit it and stuff, I think it's really interesting. I think it's a good podcast that can go. I've got no questions, but under the radar. I've seen like the comic podcast with Stuart Goldsmith.
Yeah, that's a very good podcast.
So
I think that might be the best in terms of being helping other comics out and getting better as a comedian. I think Stuart Goldsmith is probably the best podcast
he's brilliant. Yeah,
out there.
but this is good as well. So yeah, and
course.
it's going in that direction. So, and from the clips I give, the comedians have given great advice.
Yeah, no. Well, I mean, each person that I've put on a podcast, I want to make sure that they have a story to tell, or it's coming from a certain angle that I've not thought of before.
Yeah.
If I put in, I think if I put someone in from the same background as me, you know, that they're half white, half Asian, sometimes come across a bit of a knob. I don't know. Come across as me, you're gonna have the same conversation.
If you come from someone with the same background as you, yeah, there's probably 50 of you now, aren't there?
Yeah, that's true.
If you get someone from the exact same as you, one that says the same background as you, the same person as you, you'll be just interviewing yourself. Or I don't know what I'm talking about, but yeah, it's just good to get different perspectives, I suppose.
It's a bit like when you go to London and you're looking for food. You want to try something a bit different.
Yeah, I suppose so. Yeah, I think that's the great thing about each circuit is the diversity of opinions and diversity of people on the circuit and the backgrounds they come from and the stories that you hear from them. But obviously the most important thing is to make sure it's funny and you have a quality product at the end of the day.
What have been like the greatest? What have been some great stories you've heard of comedians that you know of personally who are now starting to make it that you absolutely love?
That's the interesting one. We've got someone in our agency called Steph Lang. She's brilliant. And I hope she gets to the next stage. She's getting rave reviews in Edinburgh. I don't want to say this is a disservice because she's brilliant, but she's been described before like a female James Acaster.
Oh, okay.
But she's quite whimsical in some ways. But I've seen her. She's so good because I've seen her do gigs in RF. I did an RF gig with her and she emceed it. She did an absolutely brilliant job. And she did it in a way, in a usual charming, self-deprecating way. And yeah, I can't explain it, but if you see the word Steph Lang, check her out. I think she's going to be big. So yeah.
She's been doing it that sort of time as well, hasn't she? Because I remember when I started, she'd been doing it 7 years or something.
Yeah, it's not overnight success for most of us. Unfortunately, it takes time. But she's brilliant now, and she mixes comedy with dancing as well with her new Edinburgh show as well. So it's something different, and she's really funny. So yeah, that's someone I think has done well. Nate Kitch as well, who's had a great Edinburgh. He's like really anti-comedy. I've seen him do spots before, but I'd love to see his Edinburgh show. It's got great 4 and 5 star reviews. So if you like anti-comedy, Nate Kitch is another one.
Mm. I've never seen him. What does he do precisely? Or with anti-comedy?
I can't really explain it really because I've seen him in a few spots, but there's no formula to what he does. If you even read the reviews, he's just out there. So I'm really bad at explaining. You have to see it yourself, but I've had chats to him about his Edinburgh show, and yeah, read the reviews. If you like anti-comedy, sometimes it goes nowhere, but just seeing he'll do anything. I can't explain it, but just check him out, Nate Kitch.
Nate Kitch.
But in terms of other ones, I'm thinking who are Scott Bennett's great. Obviously, he reminds me of Malcolm McIntyre. The material is brilliant, and he's worked his arse off. He's worked his socks off to get where he is today, and hopefully he can go into the next level where he can start to play bigger theatres and stuff like that. So Scott Bennett and Tom Ward as well. Tom Ward's he's quite observational, but he's got that silliness to his comedy as well, and it's quite surreal in bits.
Okay. And do you have any heroes outside of comedy that have influenced you?
I love Jeremy Corbyn. I'm a massive Jeremy Corbyn fan. He just, for me, Jeremy Corbyn is like Bill Hicks, the comedian. He just stands up for what he believes in. He won't back down. There's a authenticity to that. Yeah, so Jeremy Corbyn, because of his politics. He's always been on the right side of history for me in terms of against the war in Iraq, war in Afghanistan, Libya, and so forth. So, yeah, anti-austerity. So his politics is right down my street.
Okay. And what have been two questions on here? What have been some funny instances that have taught you a lot, and what have been the most painful experience with comedy that have taught you a lot?
The funniest incident is taught me a lot. Well, when I first started, I did the Comedy Store Gong Show, and for those who don't know what it is, you've got 5 minutes to survive. They give 3 separate cards to the audiences, and all the if all the 3 cards go up, then you get gonged off. And the funny experience was that I was so terrible that even though they gonged me off, the MC still kept me on. That's how bad I was, and that's before I got diagnosed with learning difficulties. So it's just it was like a freak show sort of, but in a nice way. He kept me on, and then I spoke to the compere a few months later and told him about it. Not a few months, a few years later. So thanks for keeping me on, and he said no, it would have been some other cunt anyway. So yeah, that's been an embarrassing experience. What was the other bit of the questions?
What's been the that was the funniest one, right?
Yeah. So yeah, I've been so if I can do it, anyone can do it. No, yeah. So yeah, sometimes when I first started, I had no self-awareness of how bad I was. So
What's been the hardest? What's been the most hardest and painful experience you've had in comedy that has taught you a lot?
I think the hardest and most painful experience is when I first started again as well. I set up Sutton Comedy Club. I set up in the Bunch of Grapes, and this has only been when I've only been going a year. I had not a clue what I was doing, you know. I did the posters were so rubbish. They're done on A4 paper, and I went to Staples to print them. Everything was so amateurish about it. Like the sound system was from Fisher Price. It wasn't from Fisher Price, but it was that quality. So, and that was really embarrassing because I booked acts like Pam Ford, who's a great actor,
Which is amazing.
who were more experienced than me, and I let them down. So it was quite embarrassing. So I lesson learned very quickly. If I'm to run my own comedy night, I've got the experience now. So if you just started out in comedy and you run your own night, make sure you get the help. Make sure you do the research first. Because yeah, I burned a bit of money from that. But yeah, it was at a pub called the Bunch of Grapes and no one turned up. And then I had to lug a portable sound system to the other side of Sutton just to get home.
Oh. But from anyone that's sort of listen now that's running gigs, because the gigs have changed, haven't they, in London?
Yeah.
There didn't used to be any bringing gigs, but now London has become a cesspit of you have to bring someone in.
I will defend London because people say the London circuit is rubbish, but it isn't. Because the fees have increased in the London circuit. For instance, I did a gig the other day, £80. 10 years ago, I would have had to pay £40 for stage time. Yeah, there are bringer gigs now, which is a shame, but I've got nothing against bringer gigs. If people are going to come to them, then you can have the product. It's like you got nights where you have Comedy Unleashed, which is branded as a free speech comedy night. It's just a gimmick. And on the other hand, you've got nights like Quantum Leopard by James Ross, where you have a chart where you can't be homophobic, transphobic, and so forth. No one's going to be anyway. I like to think. So if these like different types of nights have got a marketplace for them and people come to them, I've got nothing against it. But I think it is harder to get stage time now. It's not harder to get stage time, but I think I don't know. But when you do a bringer gig, sometimes it's hard to judge the audience because they're there to see their friend.
Mm.
So it's maybe not a completely authentic audience. Yeah.
No, it isn't. It's being coddled, isn't it?
Yeah, in a way, yeah, that's the exact word, yeah. And sometimes they might not laugh because they're too focused on their friend. And sometimes these gigs, they're lovely gigs, but they're like, I did a gig the other night. Brilliant. It was a lovely gig, but I was like 13th in the second half. And that's too much comedy, man. So, yeah.
13.
Yeah. And sometimes I've seen good acts, including myself. I've just died at bringer gigs. I've done the same material on a Saturday night and it's gone down well, but I've done it at a bringer gig and it's just died because there's been too many acts. So sometimes it's a hard judge of material. So I think bringer gigs, there is a marketplace for them, but they need to shave off the amount of acts they got.
Yeah.
They need to be on the London circuit with the open mic nights. There need to be a little bit more quality control, I think. sometimes it's better just to stay at home and write, or just have a night off than do a bringer gig where you're not going to be able to judge your material. But some, but so there are some bringer gigs out there that are really nice. So
Yeah, that's true. Now, for anyone, so one thing that I've always found interesting in comedy, if you're a bit socially awkward, they often call you autistic.
yeah.
Now, being autistic, dyspraxic, what's another misconception about that annoys you and that you find funny?
Uh, People say you can't socialize, but you can socialize, but it's more subtle. Like I take things literally. Sometimes I can't make eye contact. There's nothing that really. One thing that annoys me is when I used to be a member of a pub group called DANDA, Developmental and Neurodiverse Association. It was a London pub group. And a lot of people didn't believe because my diagnosis was mild traits of Asperger's or exhibiting possible mild traits of Asperger's, a term that we no longer use. And a lot of people didn't think I was being autistic. And the problem with these shows like Undateables, and I think they got one in Australia as well, um, is that you only see one type of autism. You see more of the high function, not the high function, but more, they need more help, you know? But then you got people like Fern Brake who've come out as autistic and stuff like that, which is giving me more representation of autism. When you see autism, we just get the usual picture of Rain Man and stuff like that. When there's more different types of people who are autistic, you know, some people can mask it better. So yeah, I think it's good now that as we know more about autism, you're not just seeing the one type or the Rain Man figure.
Yeah. What's the funniest thing you've heard from someone that says that when they've misunderstood autism? What's the funniest thing you've heard from someone?
Um, I don't know. There's no. I think the annoying thing about dyspraxia and autism as well, people think it's more annoying. There's nothing really funny just saying that there's nothing wrong with you. It's a hidden disability, you know. That's been a more annoying. Or I've done gigs for the National Autistic Society where I think some of the people in the society might be autistic because they blatantly said there's nothing wrong with you. So, but there hasn't been nothing funny, I suppose, because you don't look autistic. That's why I get that a lot as well.
Okay.
But yeah, nothing really funny.
Now, for anyone that's listening to the podcast now, what is the one bit of advice you'll give someone that isn't comedy related?
Me, what is the one piece of advice? I don't know. It's don't sweat over the small stuff. I think. There's loads of advice. Yeah, to me, is not to try and worry about things. Take things a day at a time. Especially if you've got depression like I do. Don't think about the bigger picture. Just split things up into smaller tasks. Like you said earlier, once you get things doing, like keep yourself busy, and when you get a few four or five tasks done, you feel so much better for it. For instance, I woke up early today and I got a few things done before I came here, and I feel so much better for achieving things. So don't look at the bigger picture straight away. Just break the bigger tasks into smaller tasks and keep yourself occupied.
Okay. And how do people find out about you?
Yeah, follow me at Don Biswas Comedy on Insta and Twitter and on TikTok, donbiswascomedy.com and a Rush of Laughter website if you want to book me for a gig.
Okay. And what are you doing any gigs at the moment in the next week or two or in the next month or so that they should pay attention to?
It's all on my website. I'm doing a few gigs for Desi Central. That's quite good. Love Entertainment, so they do a lot of the Asian gigs. So there'll be places like Harrow and Slough. So go on the Love Entertainment website and check out. There's some top Asian comics there, including Tommy Sandu, who hosts them. Brilliant comic. So yeah, check that out.
Okay. Well, you've heard it here first. I hope you guys have enjoyed the episode. Make sure you subscribe. Give this podcast a 5-star review on Amazon or iTunes. If you enjoyed it, if you didn't, keep it to yourself. Hope you've enjoyed it, and I'll see you guys in the next episode.